Wait, are you are you gonna count me in? Whatever. I'm just gonna go for it. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and as a child of the 80s, I'd love to say queens rule, but they don't. Queens lead. Being a queen means you are worthy to be a leader of people. The guests on our show do exactly that. They are leading the way in their businesses, families, and communities. And they're taking their rightful place in the spotlight, leading and inspiring the developing queens in all of us. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast.
Now here's your host, Amy Singleton, the queen of realness, leading conversations about business, life, and the real shit you want to know.
Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Queen's Lead podcast. Today we are very honored to be joined by Constance Wannamaker. This woman is a waymaker in about every way. I just got done saying that before we hopped on. I'm so excited to talk with you. Hi, Constance. Thanks for being here.
Yes, it's my pleasure. I'm very excited.
Well, my audience has got some ears to hear a story that you have to tell. And first of all, tell us who you are, where you are, and what industry you're in, what you do. And then we want to hear the juicy stuff of how you got there.
Okay. Yeah. It's a little bit of a long bio or introduction. I'm an attorney. I live in El Paso, Texas. Right now, I've been here, 24 years. I own a law firm. And I just acquired a second law firm. I own a few other businesses that I started as well, kind of sort of related industries. And I own some commercial properties. So basically I'm kind of an attorney, CEO, entrepreneur, person, mom,
queen, leader.
Yeah.
Like the definition of this podcast, guys. This is why I'm so excited to have her here. Just done a million things. You're also a mom, you said?
I am a mom. Yes. I have one 15-year-old teenager. So that's
Same.
an adventure. Yeah.
Boy or girl?
Boy.
Same. Yeah. Is he just growing by leaps and bounds? Like every second you look up and you're like, okay, you grew 6 inches last night.
Yeah, he did literally over the summer. He went from like my height to now just, and he was so excited to be taller than me because.
Yes, it's all the looking down on us now, right? Like, hi, mom. And does he want to like pick you up? That's the new thing here.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
He does. I'm just making sure. It's like they're all of a sudden wanting to assert their power, but it's such a weird time to navigate because like they look like giant men, but every once in a while they still do something that reminds you they're definitely 15.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And he's really a mama's boy. He's a mama's boy at heart. So.
Same. So happy about that too. That's awesome. Well, tell us how you got here, because you said you started off with like a whole bunch of credit card debt all by yourself and like $10,000. And that does not sound like the beginning to your most wonderful story. So tell us how you did that. What's that story like?
Well, yeah, I really, for many, many years, I went to law school because I wanted to do good and change people's lives. And I worked in nonprofits for the first almost 20 years of my career and made, not very much money working in nonprofits. Representing immigrants, representing migrant farm workers, immigrants, people with disabilities, always, for the last 24 years or 20-ish years of my career in El Paso, working on the border with a lot of people that didn't have their papers. And so honestly, it's going to sound strange, but I was in a marriage that wasn't great. And it wasn't horrible, but it just wasn't great. It was one of those we grew apart kind of things. But I didn't have any money. And I felt like I needed to leave that marriage, but I needed to be able to support myself and stand on my own feet. I'd come from growing up a childhood where my parents divorced and we were really, really poor because my dad just kind of took off and didn't support us. Right. And I didn't want to have to move out and then be like in a little apartment with my son. I wanted to still be able to give him a quality of life and make it as easy as possible on him.
Yeah.
I knew I had to make more money to be able to do that because I just wasn't going to do that on my nonprofit salary.
Nope.
And I had been at that nonprofit 10 years and I wanted to kind of go in a different direction anyway. But I saved like all my vacation time and cashed out my vacation pay. And that was really what I had. And I had an old 401k from a prior employment with the state many, many years ago. It was like $1,000, right? So I cashed that in. got a few hundred out of that after the taxes and everything. And basically rented a space for very cheap, found some great people who helped me, gave me a month rent free and let me use the furniture in the office, and started an immigration law practice, which was something I had done on and off. But I decided that's really what I wanted to dedicate myself to. Had a great mentor, which I think is huge, right? That's key.
So
Had a great
huge.
mentor to help me learn how to operate my law firm like a business, and also how to charge. That was a mindset issue I had to overcome, right? Because I came from a
Mhm.
nonprofit background, and so to really ensure that I was getting paid, that
Yeah.
was a challenge for me, and it took some time to really be firm on that. Not negotiate my
Mhm.
fees, not listen to the sob stories, and really insist that I get paid for the work that I was doing.
Yeah.
And then I remember my first couple of hires, I was so scared. The first guy I hired was like part-time, $10 an hour. And I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I can pay him. And it
Yeah.
worked out. And then I had an unpaid intern, and she's still with me now. She's actually my chief of staff, and she's making a lot of
Wow.
money. And just getting the right people in place. It's been trial and error, right? We've had some turnover. We've ended up growing really fast, got some great sales folks in place, and grew really fast, got some of the wrong people, you gotta
Mm.
fill seats,
Oh yeah.
but we're working on being more strategic. But yeah, I had about $10,000. I had about $25,000 in credit card debt and no
Wow.
place to live. So I had to make this work. I worked really hard, and I just did, I hustled, and I did whatever it took to get clients, to move cases, to get more clients, to learn marketing, and just really kind of hustled. And then now I'm at a place where we're doing 8 figures. I have, and just in the law firm, and I have over 150 employees all over the
Wow.
world. I bought my office building, which is 58,000 square feet, and I have 10.
Wow.
And I started other companies. So I kind of got that an entrepreneurial bug. But a lot of it was hustle and mindset, really.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, so did you have an example in your life? Was your mom an entrepreneur? Who was the other entrepreneur that you were looking to? Maybe that mentor that let you know this was even possible for you.
Mhm. Yeah. So my mom had, she had to go to work, after my parents divorced, and she'd
Hmm.
never worked in her life. She was a housewife. She got married when she was 17, didn't go to
Wow.
college, just had babies and was happy with that. That's
Hmm.
what she wanted to do. But she's also very type A. She's like Uber mom, made our clothes, made our food, like, that kind of mom, right?
Nice.
She's like type A in everything she does, but she had to go to work. So she really hustled too. And she worked really hard, and she found a job in sales and ended up making a lot of money. Met my stepfather, married him. And they ended up starting their own company,
Okay.
representing different manufacturers, doing sales, and ended up being able to make a lot of money. And actually my dad passed away actually the day I was supposed to be opening my business. I was
Oh
on a
my
plane to
goodness.
South Carolina to say goodbye to him because he was in
Mm.
hospice and about to die, and he died the next day. So I was able to get there in time to say goodbye. But so it was a little bit of a hiccup too, in the start to the business. My mom actually does live with me now. So she was an example of how just hard work and really doing it, and mindset too. I remember growing up, she was always listening to like Zig Ziglar and, all these like
Really?
speak
Wow.
on
Yeah.
tape, right? Back then they were actually
Right. Yeah.
tape, you'd put in the car. And so before I even started my business, I started that kind of stuff, right? I was doing a lot of mindset work. I was doing sales training. I was following different people on social media and just listening to a lot of audiobooks on business and really learning. When I went to law school, like I said, I wanted to be a do-gooder, right? And I didn't take any business classes. I didn't
Yeah.
take any corporate classes. I knew nothing about how to run a business.
Yeah.
I had to take remedial math in college. Like, numbers are not my thing. And coming from a sales family, I was always like, I don't want to do sales. Everybody in the family does sales. I'm gonna do something different. And then
Yeah.
I learned that sales was so much fun. But yeah, it was a lot of self-development,
Mhm.
to like just know that I could do it, and learning, and always just trying to improve myself and improving
Yeah.
my skills, and then having a good mentor. I joined a mastermind with a lawyer
Mm.
who learned how to run her office, her law firm like a business, And I had so I had a support system. And so I have
Yeah.
a group now. That mastermind no longer is in existence, but the women that I was in the program with, we all still keep in touch. We even have our own Slack. We get together 2 times a
Wow.
year, different places in the world. We always vote on where we're going to go next. We were in Montreal last time, and Mexico the time before that. We're going to Guatemala next time. So we also like to travel, but we're all women law firm owners, and we all get together and support each other. And I joined a different business coaching program once that mastermind ended too, because I would think that's so important to have a group of people that are your
Mhm.
support system, and that you can go
Absolutely.
to with issues and questions and support. And like, am I crazy? You can't go to your employees,
No,
So,
because your auntie and like your cousin and your neighbor and your friend, like they don't get it, right? They just don't
no,
get it, like
and
at
they think
all.
we're crazy.
Yeah, and we are, and that's okay. But we have to find groups of other crazy that match our crazy so we can like be crazy together.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I can't. I've got a few female attorneys I would love to introduce to you and see if they can find their way into that fold, because man, it's tough out there. It's so tough to not know what to do in your own industry. Like you said, you went to college to learn how to do lawyering, but they don't tell you what it's like to run a business as a lawyer.
Yeah, no, they really don't. And I really, because I didn't want to do anything corporate, I stayed away from all that stuff. I took like international human rights law classes and immigration and, stuff like that. That's what I focused on, civil rights. And so I really didn't know anything about running a business, and it was really just the necessity of learning. And I mean, that means that there were mistakes, right? Things were not
Right.
right. But that's okay. That's how you learn. I really think that
Absolutely.
you don't learn as much from your successes as you do from your failures.
100%. Yeah. John Maxwell would sign his name to that. He's currently mentoring my mastermind one-on-one with him. And we've got a 2-year contract. And that is the biggest thing that he keeps harping into us on our monthly meetings is like, embrace your failure, embrace it, like love that failure. Because once you get a failure, you're like, oh, now I know how that doesn't work. And now I can do it this way. And you can fail fast and do better every single time. I love that
Yeah.
you're willing
I
to
mean,
say, I messed it up, man. I'm not perfect.
yeah, absolutely. And of course, as a lawyer, there's certain things you have to be really careful about, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't want to commit malpractice, but typically the things, in business, nobody's dying, right? I'm not an ER doctor. So
Right.
it's okay if I make a mistake. And I
That's
try to get
right.
that message across to my team too, that it's
Mm.
okay to not be perfect and to make a mistake. What is not okay is not to learn from that mistake.
Oh, so good. So good. Giving your team a place to fail, a safe place to fail and learn. I know without a shadow of a doubt, that's why your intern is now your operations manager. I mean, like that's queen leadership right there, is giving them that permission and that safe place to mess up and that it's okay and that we're on a team together. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people miss that piece.
Yeah.
Why immigration? I love that that's what you do. I'm so it just has a near and dear place to my heart, if for really no specific reason other than this. I'm into civil rights. I love what you're doing. So maybe that's the reason for you. But was there something that was like you knew this was your area of law?
Yeah. So, and I love talking about, my vision and how we're helping people and my clients, because they're really
Good.
such deserving people. When I
Yes.
was in college, I was a Spanish major, and during a summer, I wanted to do something to use my Spanish because, if you don't use it during the summer, you're going to lose a lot of it before you go back
Yeah.
next semester. And so I got an internship working with part-time with a church group and part-time with legal services, providing legal services to migrant farm workers, and then like social services. So we taught English classes. We would take them like health kits with toothpaste and toothbrushes and socks and stuff like that. And it was
Yeah.
pretty easy for me to see, okay, where am I going to make a difference? Well, sure, these
Mm.
people need a toothbrush, but they should be getting paid enough so that they can buy a toothbrush.
Right.
On the other hand, like with the legal services, we are actually helping people get out of these really bad situations. This was in South Carolina, and the situations people were living in, just living in shacks. They were paid basically with a lot of these people were recruited off the streets of big cities, Atlanta, Orlando, Miami, brought to South Carolina with promises of all this work. They're going to make all this money. They end up working in these labor camps with these in the fields, these farm labor contractors that literally would have guns and threatened them if they tried to leave. They'd get paid in like drugs and beer, because most of them were homeless and had some problems or used drugs. And so in the end of the week, when it came time to get paid, they wouldn't earn any money. They'd actually owe money for the food and the beer they drank. And they couldn't leave because they're in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina. You'd have to walk miles down a dirt road to leave the labor camp. So they were really stuck. So we did a lot of helping people get out of those situations, and then filing complaints against and suing the farm labor contractors and the farmers. But what really stuck out to me is a lot of people without status really found themselves in situations like this because they didn't have status. They didn't have legal status. They didn't have work permits, and they were often afraid to assert their rights and just felt like, well, this is all I can get because I don't have papers. And so just throughout my career, I've seen the difficulties that people have faced when they don't have legal status here, and the fear that one lives in. So for example, my clients are typically people who have come to the United States from Mexico or Central America. For the most part, they came when they might've been like 16, 17, 18, 19, very low level of education in their home country. They came here because they were just desperate, right? They didn't feel like there was any future for them in their country, and they just wanted to come make a better life for themselves and their families. And so they came to the US, were able to get in. Some of them got deported several times before they finally made it, but they kept trying because that was, that was the goal. That's what they didn't have a choice, right, in their minds. And now they've lived here 20, 30, even 40 years. I have clients that have been here that long that never were able to get their papers, that some own their homes, they've worked, they've created their own businesses, they have their employees, they raise their kids. They have a community, they go to church, they, basically their lives are here, right? They're just as much Americans as we are. They just don't have papers. And what we're doing is we're using creative and aggressive legal strategies, looking for loopholes in the law, using other strategies that we can find that other lawyers haven't really bothered to try to do. A lot of immigration lawyers don't like to take more complex cases because they're just harder. And we love that, right? I love being able to find a solution for somebody who never thought they were going to get their papers and make that happen. And to be able to give somebody even just a work permit after they've been in the country for 30 years with no legal status at all. I mean, we have grown men just crying, right? It makes such a difference to them and their families to be able to leave their home and not be worried about what's going to happen to everything I have built here if I get arrested, or if immigration picks me up, or if someone calls immigration on me, or something happens. I'm gonna lose everything. I get deported. I don't even know anybody in my country now because my parents died and I haven't seen them for 20 years, and I didn't get to say goodbye, all of this stuff they're going through. And then to be able to get them their residency after them really thinking that it was never going to happen. I mean, they just, it's so life-changing, not just for them, but their families too, to provide that peace and security and a path to really a better life for them. It really is life-changing. I know that's a word, a phrase people use a lot, but it really,
no, that's legitimately life-changing. Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, all lawyers are doing some kind of important work. I mean, if you're giving people divorces, great. I mean, you might be getting someone out of an abusive situation or just a jerk face, but you are literally changing their lives. I mean, the impact can just be felt for generations after that.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, we have it really does make a difference, because not only are our clients worried about, okay, if I leave the house, what can happen to me, but their families are always worried about that too. Even if they've been here 20 years and they think, and they're kind of comfortable with their situations, it's always in here, right? It's always in the back of their head. And they so much want to be legal in the place that is their home. I mean, imagine living somewhere for 30 years and just feeling like you have to still stay in the shadows some because you don't have papers. You're not legal in a place that really is your home.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I just speak to how hard is it for someone, because I mean, I live in Oklahoma, I live in the South. It's all build the wall, keep them out. Oh, they're taking our jobs. It's all this crap that I just hate to hear, for various reasons. But Is it hard? I mean, do they make it just so hard for someone to figure out how to do it the right way, quote unquote? Like, if you're going to come in our country, do it the right way. Yeah, well, you figure that out, Grandpa. I mean, yeah. Tell me how hard have we made it for people to do it the right way?
Yeah, it's really difficult because it's so there was a change in the law in 1996 that it was a law signed by Bill Clinton that made actually things a lot worse for people, that instituted certain I'm trying to think of the word in English, punishments to people, or for people who bars, we call them bars. So if you come in without papers, and there, it's just different technicalities, but it basically bars you from being able to adjust your status, get your residency through the normal pathways, even if you marry someone. So, and then if you want to bring someone from another country, that's hard. And then if you want to say, like, sponsor your adult children to come, if you're a citizen, the wait for that type of visa is about 23 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to.
Yeah, I was interviewing some Asian women during Impact Month back in May, and they were like, you know, when one of my guest story was like, when I came over, my mom's sister had got to apply to bring someone over, but that was before I was even born, and it was like 18 or 22 years, and that was the legal way.
Yeah.
22 years? That's in the literal generation. Like, this, her mother had put off having her because of that promise. And so when she came to America, she was 12. Imagine if her mother had put it, I mean, she would be barren in her barren years if she'd waited that long to have a family, to have the hope of coming to America. So it's not as easy as people want to say it is.
No, it's not. And even if you want to, if you get married and you want to bring your spouse over, that still could take 4 years, depending on what country you're from, depending on your status. It's very, very complicated. It's expensive because they've made it so complicated that really you do need a lawyer. I would never recommend anybody try to do the process on their own. Because if you just mess it up a little bit, you can get denied, or it can be delayed for more years. And then unfortunately, it's the government that we're dealing with, so they make mistakes.
Yeah.
And they may reject things or deny things that are clearly wrong on their part, the error is on their part. And then you're going to need a lawyer to have to deal with that eventually. And so I always recommend people getting a lawyer the first time and not wait. And, I know it saves money to go to someone who just fills out forms, or, your aunt who says she can do it for you or help you with it because she did her process 30 years ago. It's totally different now. 30 years ago, you could just fill out some forms, but that's just not the case now. It's gotten really, really complicated, and you just really want to make sure you do it right.
Yeah. So how many people have you since the beginning? When did your business begin?
We began in May of 2019.
In 2019. This has been fast. And you're at 150 employees?
Yeah.
I mean, where does that credit? I know you've got like grit and determination and drive, but I mean, like, what do you credit that to? That is massively fast.
Yeah, it is. And part of it is because I started hiring people offshore through Upwork. So we were leveraging offshore talent, which is much more cost effective. I didn't need a big office here in the US. So that really helped. I had a couple of people initially in the US, and then most of my folks were offshore, and I started with a sales team. I trained them, really learned a lot about sales myself. Like I said, I really studied sales and just got better at closing cases, right? So when I would do consultations, I would be able to get the clients to sign up, because it is a lot of money. It's an expensive process. And so, and it's a scary one. So, getting clients convincing clients to sign up is one thing. And then I was able to hire an amazing sales director, and he's really great at sales. And we contracted with a BPO. It's a business processes organization, I think is what that stands for. They're a Tucson-based company, but they have a call center in Hermosillo, Mexico, which is about 5 hours south of Tucson. And we started building a sales team in Mexico there. And it is a little bit more expensive than hiring like work from home people, but but we're finding it more effective because they're easier to salespeople. You've got to constantly be on top of, right? You got to constantly motivate, continually train, especially for a law firm when they're talking to people about legal issues. We want to make sure that they're not inappropriately giving legal advice, telling clients the wrong thing, making sure that the clients understand they're not talking to lawyers. There's a lot of ethical considerations there. So they need constant training and oversight. Other businesses, not so much, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly, ethically, legally. But having that team there has been really, really helpful because, we can, if it's a slow sales day, we're there and we can turn it around by going, okay, what's going on? Now we have a marketing team there. They can work together. The phones aren't ringing, turn up an ad or, that kind of thing. So that's really working the synergy there between the marketing team and the sales team. And so having the sales team and having someone put that into place, obviously that really helped because that kind of drove the sales. And then with the sales coming in, then we had to hire more people to do the work.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of snowballed from there. And then I needed a new space for my growing team, and I ended up buying a big building. We renovated a 12,000 square foot floor. We've got about 30 people in the 5th floor of the building I bought, and now we're renovating the 3rd floor. The 4th and the 1st and the 2nd are rented to other tenants, and now we're renovating the 3rd floor because we're actually out of space on the 5th floor.
That's awesome. What a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how exciting.
I learned a lot, like one thing that I will say I would be cautious of or caution people about if they do have a company they're starting or growing and trying to scale, is, and we do want to scale and keep working and keep scaling. Some things that I did that I probably would have done differently. One is working on culture really early because we grew so fast and we had to just fill seats. And we weren't really hiring for culture, and now we do. We're very, very deliberate about that. We do assessments on everybody based on whether they meet our core values. We did a lot of work as an executive team. I have an executive team. We did a lot of work on that to really make sure we're having the right fit people, because you get one bad person, you get some drama, and everything can go downhill.
Absolutely.
Productivity stops. People don't want to come to work. Like, it's just that can really, really be the downfall of a company if you can't get your culture right. And so that I'm really focusing on that earlier in earlier phases, I think would have helped avoids a lot of the turnover that we ended up having.
Yeah, 100%. Setting those, I was just the episode before this episode was that the HR lady. She was literally talking about culture and values and how important, and we've also found the same thing to be so important. And not just with my team, but with my clients. Like, if we don't have some aligned values, we're not going to work together, because it is not going to work out well for either one of us. We'll both be pissed off 6 months down the line, right? So important to keep that culture. How do you navigate? This was a conversation in our mastermind, the last mastermind we had last month. How do you navigate the culture between the homies, or like your remote workers, and the in-house workers? Like, some of them getting certain benefits, some of them get different benefits. It's like, well, those versus us. Have you had any strife or struggle with that, and how have you navigated it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a struggle, especially the work from home people, because we still have a number of people throughout the world that work from home through Upwork. Although we're actually moving everybody. If I don't know if anybody listening or watching has anybody on Upwork, but they are changing their fee structure. And so we're starting to pay our longer term employees through Gusto, which allows us to pay contractors in international countries to avoid having to pay higher fees through Upwork. We've had to deliberately, because now we have teams and team leaders and team managers, but it's been a deliberate thought process of, okay, how do we include the offshore folks, the work from home folks, in all of the activities, or create virtual activities for them, because they're not here in the office when we do the decorate the Christmas stocking or whatever we're doing in the office. They can't go to the baseball game with us when we do our day at the baseball game, and get a couple of sweets, and try to do that with them. The other thing I have done is, and it's effort, it does cost some money, is I go where they are. So we have a team in Buenos Aires. I went to Buenos Aires and they all work from home, but we had enough people there that it was worth a visit. We had a meeting, we got together, we did team building activities, we did a cooking class, we did a day of, just training, and then had a dinner another night, just hung out. I went to Bogota because I have two teams there, one with a law firm and one with another company that I own, Sendero de Esperanza. And then I spent a week there. And we did a couple days with one company and a couple days with another company, where we got everybody together, and they hadn't all met each other in person before either.
Yeah.
And we did a team building activity. One day we visited a farm animal sanctuary. I'm vegan, so we visited a farm animal sanctuary out in the mountains outside of Bogota. And then with the other team, we did a coffee farm tour. So that was really fun. And then each team, we had also a day of meetings and trainings as well. And I think that really helped. People feel more included, and it helps them make that connection. And then of course we have with Hermosillo, where we have our call center, not just a sales team, not just a marketing team, but our customer service team is there. Well, now we have legal assistants there as well. So we're expanding that team, and they do a lot there. They do awards at the end of every month, and pizza Fridays and gift cards, and, a lot of team building activities. And I go down there. Actually, I'm going this week, go down there very often to, visit the team and just check on things, make sure, just be there to support people. And we send different members of the executive team. Of course, now I bought another law firm in Atlanta just at the end of July. So that's another team that I do have to go visit. So I do travel a lot, but it's great to meet them and to bond with them and to do, different team building activities with them. And then we try to do like all company meetings, but they're on video then. And they have lots of little tiny boxes.
Yes, tons of those. But not only does that give them a chance to connect with you and the executive team and the rest, but with each other. So like, imagine all the people in Buenos Aires, maybe they weren't even, like you said, they all work from home. So now they have new connections with coworkers that they can kind of continue that synergy together. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So you've grown so much. Are you still doing any lawyering? Are you getting to do any of the things that like got you started that you loved? And do you hate it, or do you love that you got to let that go?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't do much lawyering anymore. I do have one gap in my company that's still, I think, the biggest gap that will get me really out of having to do any lawyering. And I'm fine with not doing the lawyering anymore. I still like to do exciting things legally and like push that envelope and really like push the boundaries, be that zealous advocate. But I'm a true visionary, and I really like doing that visionary stuff. So I have 6 associates now, and I just need that high level managing attorney to really drive that for me. And I am still missing that piece in my executive team. And once I have that in place, I'll really be able to move out. So I do still supervise the other attorneys, and they come to me when they have, difficult cases or questions. They have varying levels of experience, but I do have, they are doing most of the legal work. So I'm not doing really that much.
Yeah. You're just the overseer and visionary now, which is like what everybody hopes to get to. At least we say we hope to get there. And then you find yourself at the top going, well, what am I going to do?
And I've got a big picture vision, and it is big, and it's one of the mindset things that I worked on. And then it's constantly growing and evolving. Like in 3 years, I want to have 10 offices all over the country with attorneys, expanding the practice area, the niches we do kind of humanitarian types of cases, and then the types of cases that the law firm that I bought does, which is also very niche, expanding that all over the country in different offices, and then opening community centers within those offices where we're doing English classes and financial literacy and citizenship classes, and really creating a community with our clients. And really creating kind of a movement, right? And to really empower the immigrant community, and just really teach them, okay, now you have your papers. Here's what it means to be an American. And here's what you need to know, because they probably don't know anything about credit, right? Because they haven't had a social security number. And they're still going to get taken advantage of if they don't have those skills and that knowledge, and to be able to kind of offer other things that they may need, because now we're a trusted resource for them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you are building a community. You're building a nationwide tribe that is going to be singing your praises, not only for what you've done with them with papers, but then continuing after the quote unquote after the sale, like you're supporting them in a life. And that's what makes, I mean, that's where your credit comes from, your queen leadership. That's exactly what you're doing. I have chills just like thinking about what you're doing. It's so incredible to me. I'm so happy to know you and so proud of what you're doing. It's so incredible. We're almost out of time, but I don't want to get off this call without you helping my guests, our listeners, to overcome that imposter mindset, that fear of asking for money, that mindset. You've said that so many times, and I know, I mean, we're all constantly working on our mindset. I have to tell Shannon, my inner critic, to shut up, sit down and shut up so many times every day. But what is your best piece of advice on that so many of us people and women especially struggle with?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is interesting when you say, especially women. I made an offer to an attorney who I thought was incredibly smart. And she said, she turned it down and she said, I just don't think that have the experience yet that you need to run this part of your practice. And I thought a man would never have said that. Because,
Right? Ever.
yeah,
Oh my
because
gosh.
a man thinks, okay, I can do 10% of it. Yeah, sure, I can do that, right? Whereas women, we think, no, we have to tick every single box
Yeah.
before we think we're qualified or can apply for something, right?
Mm.
And so that we need to get over. And also, some of it can take a little while. Sometimes I'm the only woman in the room. And I have to say, I've learned some bad
So
habits.
often.
Right.
Oh, so often.
And I've learned some bad habits. Like I interrupt people now, and I never used to do that. But sometimes when you're in a room full of men, the only way you're going to get hurt is you have to just,
That's right.
talk louder and louder until the rest of them shut up and let you talk.
Yeah.
But for the mindset, there's a book that I recommend. It's called The Big Leap by Gay
Mm.
Hendricks. And it talks about he calls it our upper limit problem, where we self-sabotage unknowingly when we get to this limit because of our fear, and how to kind of get beyond that and really live within our zone of genius, not just our zone of okay goodness or even greatness,
Mm.
but really genius. And that was really
Yeah.
helpful. I gave that to my who's now my chief of staff, who was my intern, because she had that. She's only 22 and she's super smart and amazing, but she had an imposter syndrome, and that really
Wow.
helped her. Finding a good mentor, I think, is also really helpful. And so I
Mhm.
do things like, I follow a lot of, thought leaders, read a lot of books, Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, all the greats.
Yeah.
And if anybody's interested in sales, I love Zig Ziglar. He's so old school. I mean, these are really,
Yeah.
you can find all his stuff, his library on Audible. Um,
Mhm.
and I download it all there. So that's really what I do. And then when I think about vision, and when I really started working on my vision, my really big vision, like it should be your BHAG, right? The big hairy ass goal, right? So
Yeah.
it's an ambitious goal. So really, really, it should scare you. It should be so big that you are terrified, because what's the point otherwise, right? Because how are you going to get here if your vision isn't here? If your vision is here, you're only getting here. You know what I mean? So you really need to shoot
Absolutely.
higher, and just it also learn that it's okay to do it scared. Be scared, do
Mhm.
it anyway. I think anything in life worth doing is scary.
That's
And
right.
and so just do it anyway. And the more you practice doing it, even though you're afraid, you're going to find that I'm actually not that afraid anymore, because I did it afraid and it worked out. Or
That's
this is
right.
what I learned from it, and I know that I can do this now.
Oh, that's good. Oh, so good, man. That's some queen leader stuff. If y'all didn't get enough queen leadership out of this episode, then I challenge you to send me your favorite leadership podcast, because this is it. This is the bomb. She is amazing. I'm so happy to have met you. Thank you, Constance, for
Well,
what you're doing. Tell the guests, where do they have to be living in a certain state to work with you if they need help? One. And how do they find you? If someone has been here in this country for 5 minutes or 50 years and they need those papers and a solid start to a real American citizenship life, how do they get that with you?
Yeah. So we have our website, crwannamakerlaw.com, but also our phone number, 915-209-5910 is ours, where you can book an appointment for a consultation. And no, with immigration law, it's federal. So I have clients all over the country. In fact, we have a map that we put on the wall where we have the numbers of clients we have in each state, so we can see as we're planning where we're going to open new offices, right?
Yeah.
And we update it periodically, right? Because it changes all the time. So yeah, or Facebook, Sendero de Wannamaker Law, and I'm Abogada Constance on all the socials as well.
All right, man. Thank you guys so much, or thank you, not you guys. Thank you guys for listening. And thank you to Constance for being a true queen leader and making a way for so many people. What a beautiful name you have, Constance Wannamaker. Thank you very much for being my guest. And thank you for being a queen that leads.
Thank you.
The Queen's Lead podcast is recorded worldwide and produced by the kick-ass media team at the Height Digital home base in Nicaragua. Until our next episode, stay real, queens, and go lead. Remember to tap that follow and leave your review. For freebies and more real, inspiring content you love, go to amysingleton.net and connect with Amy on her socials at @TheRealAmySingleton.
One more thing. This is the legal language, what my lawyer wrote and what I need to read to you. This podcast is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am Amy Singleton, and I'm just your friend. Although I may speak to many on this show, I am not a psychotherapist, a business coach, a doctor, a CPA, a lawyer, or probably anyone who should be giving you professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for a relationship with your doctor, coach, or any other licensed professional. Got it? Good. Now go be a queen and follow me at The Real Amy Singleton.